Hi, and welcome to the I Ramble podcast. We're an entrepreneur-centric podcast, guiding you with some tried and true strategies from people that have taken their ideas from mental creation to reality. Now they're trying to make it easier for you to succeed in your endeavors. So sit back and listen to these entrepreneurs, builders, and designers share the step-by-step formulation of their business. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for new episodes. Enjoy!
What the deal with the business is? You already know that's not a rhetorical question. That's a real question, what the business is. And today the business is, I want to say mental guidance, mental health, thought, theta thinker, how to keep your focus. So all of those things is what the business is. So as an entrepreneur, you start your business, you reach out to different resources and try to keep it on track. But sometimes you get derailed because you're self-sabotaging. So because I knew I did that previously, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs that I network with do that too, I reached out to this lady to see how she can give us some guidance on how to stay focused, how to stay upright in your dealings and in your building and in your growing. And then one of the small backstories before I ramble too much, she just reminded me of that lady in the series The Billions. You know, if you don't know, get familiar. She just seems like she's just that person that just keeps you with an even keel, keep you grounded, keep you well focused. And like I said, we're not going to do her any disservice. We're going to let her introduce herself. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. I love the reference to the executive coach on Billions because that's definitely my zone of genius. I come from a 10-year background in neurosurgery and neuroscience. And now I get to be a maverick of the mind and human potential. So I lightheartedly say I now do mind surgery, no scalpels or anesthesia required. So I definitely appreciate that Billions reference because that's the level that I like to play at, and I believe that is possible. I truly believe that is possible for every single individual who is willing to embark on that path and really do the work to take possession of your own mind. I call that voice you're talking about. Sometimes I call that voice the saboteur. Some people call it the inner critic, the saboteur. And sometimes I call that voice it's like the monster, like the monsters in the closet. So it's getting beyond. Getting beyond those monsters and knowing that voice, that negative voice is not the truth. It's something that it's an externally voiced. So that inner critic, that negative self-talk, it came from something outside of yourself is what I mean by externally sourced. So anything that negative voice is saying to you is not the truth. It's not the truth of who you are, and it's not the truth of what you're capable of. And it does take work to really get beyond that, to get the place of believing and really overcoming that voice. But I talk about it. I get into it in my book, in the Peaceful Millionaire. I talk about like that inside of your head is a three-way call that's taking place.
No, that's fantastic. And I'm glad that's kind of where I really would have loved for us to go and delve into. And you got there so quick because this is what you do. I wanted a little bit of your background. How did you get into this? How did you realize that theta, delta, and all these different levels of overstanding and mind curating and focus was possible? And you said a little bit about it earlier when you were into neurological surgery assistant, but how did it click for you?
Definitely. Thank you for that question. Yeah, so it was something that unfolded for me a bit gradually, and on my own journey and path for success and becoming an entrepreneur. And what happened for me was I was really kind of following. I mentioned the three-way call, right? So I was following the voice of the higher guidance, which and really truly felt that I had been called to speak and was getting these messages and this guidance to really do other work in the world. And so I had started to embark on that path. And then I remember specifically a moment where I had invested in myself in personal, professional growth and business development. So I felt like I had this foundation and I had a direction of where I wanted to be and where I wanted to go as an entrepreneur, but I still wasn't there yet. And I was frustrated because I had invested all this time and money, and I'm like, okay, I'm still not where I want to be. And what is the problem? And that was really when I sat with that, I realized that was when I realized that consciously I had developed the mindset that I was capable, that I was smart enough, all of these things. So I had a positive mindset around it, but I was still really getting stuck and not taking some of the action that was necessary. And I asked for guidance around that, and that was when I was told that I was meant to do deep work with people, and I said, I don't know what that means yet, but I'll be guided to it. And I got guided to a book that someone had mailed to me, which was called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. And so that was when I really started to explore and study the subconscious mind, and that led me to theta healing. So what happens as far as the mind goes, so the mindset is really important, but it's still a limiting factor because your mindset is important because your conscious mind or your thoughts are speaking to your subconscious mind. But your conscious thought is only 5% of your mind, therefore only 5% of your potential. It is the subconscious mind that is actually creating your external reality, and it's the other 95% of your potential and of your mind, and therefore 95% of your potential. So there's all of this untapped potential that most people don't have access because they can't quite get past that negative talk in the conscious mind.
Where does that negative talk come from? Is that something where upbringing? I talk to some people and I tell them, look, don't tell your child that they're clumsy and things like that, because they end up growing up and thinking that they are, and then use that as an excuse for why they tripped here and there. So is it a part of your upbringing? Is it a part of your surroundings? How do you develop that when you know as a thinker that you are, that none of those things are real and you only really get what you create?
Well, and the thing is it comes from both places, right? So it's a combination of what most of those things, that negative self-talk, most of that was planted very young, very early on. Some of it is parental, right? Because that's one of your primary environments as a child. But it can also come from a coach, from a teacher, from an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent. It can come from friends. It can come from the media. So what I mean when I say it's externally sourced, right? So all of that negative stuff came from someplace outside of yourself. But what happens is the subconscious mind is a supercomputer, and it's been recording everything since the day you were born. So your subconscious mind has record of all of these negative things as well as all of the positive things. Right. So, but those negative things kind of get stored as programming. And so most people think that the negative voice is the ego. And the truth is it's not the ego itself. The ego can take on a negative tone. You see that in the form of egotism. But truly the ego and egotism are not the same. So just your ego itself is really part of your logical thinking and part of what's able to keep you grounded. So your ego is not the negative voice. The negative voice is again, that's something that came from outside of yourself, that you've held on to. But it's again, it's certainly not real or true, and it's not the truth of what you're capable of or who you really are.
Okay, so as you train, guide, and coach, how do what's the first step? What's the first step? Someone reach out to you and say, "Hey, Jessa, I'd like you to coach my guys," or "I'm in need of coaching," and this and that. Because you coach on different levels anyway, and we're going to get into all of those different levels, right? But when someone reach out to Jessa and say, "Hey, Jessa, I'm in need of coaching for my team, my guys," and what's the first step? What do we need to do?
The first step to agree. So the first step to agree is just meeting and determining if it's a good fit to work together, because that's something that's very important.
No, I mean in general. With you, you're going to get so specific because it's just like, to me, I'm just so happy I was able to reach out to you and connect with you. But I equate it to coaching. You're going to get a coach that can coach, college, back professional, and JV. You're in the level where you can coach all parameters, but so not you specifically, but just in a general starting starting that journey of saying, I'm going to stay out my own way.
Staying out the own way. Well, yeah, that's a great decision to make for yourself, right? And that was really the question that I had, and the realization that I had is, okay, I'm getting in my own way now. How do I get out of my own way? And from a coaching perspective, there's a lot of change that can be created within the conscious mind, and really expanding, what's possible for someone. There's so much change that can happen by just shifting of a perspective, by helping someone kind of see beyond a blind spot, right? Because you can't see your own blind spot. So sometimes people just need a little bit of help and like reflection, kind of seeing beyond, what their current perception is, right? So sometimes it's a shift in perception, a shift in perspective. There's also a lot of change that can be created because, again, I said your conscious mind, your thoughts are constantly in communication and talking to your subconscious mind, right? So your thoughts, your conscious mind are feeding your subconscious mind. So it's like how to improve that communication. So there's a lot of room to improve communication. So just an example of like a perspective shift and how to improve the communication between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. So the thing that I teach and that I offer, for example, is obstacles, right? So obstacles, most people think obstacle, they hear obstacle, they see an obstacle, and they really see it at face value. They see it as an obstacle. And what happens is if consciously you're convinced that obstacle is an obstacle, it's going to remain an obstacle, because what happens if that's your belief and that's your perspective, that obstacle equals obstacle, your subconscious mind throws up a giant red stop sign and it acts accordingly. It stops. So the perspective shift there, right, and the conversation shift of your conscious mind to your subconscious mind is, okay, no, obstacle does not equal obstacle. Obstacle equals opportunity. So if you shift that conscious perspective to obstacle equals opportunity, now your subconscious mind is acting accordingly, and your subconscious mind says, okay, if obstacle equals opportunity, now your subconscious mind is stepping in and saying, okay, well, where's my opportunity? So you have the opportunity.
So is your subconscious mind the dominant parent, per se, in this equation, and your conscious is the child exploring? And then when you see the child about to run into the street, the subconscious say, hey, or what is the order of operations? Or is it, or are they in unison, and you need to understand that they're in unison and apply that?
Well, I think to think of it in that way, rather than thinking of it as whether it's the conscious mind or the subconscious mind, in that regard is really kind of thinking more in the way of that three-way call and that conversation that's taking place in your head, right? Right. So when you're because you're constantly thinking, right? You're constantly weighing out options. And
so what is that? Right. So who is doing
your
that?
Your mind is again, your mind is this like computer, right? And so your conscious mind is attempting to sort things out.
Okay.
And so you do have, right? You have that kind of like negative voice, that inner critic, and then you have this like intermediate voice, which is like the voice of logic, the voice of reason, who is attempting to be the referee, and then you kind of have this other voice, right? This voice of your higher self or of your higher mind,
right,
which is always going to be the positive perspective. It's always going to be that positive pull forward. It's going to be the person that really steps in when your logical mind is wanting to like throw in the towel because that negative voice is being so unruly that even your logical mind is like I can't with this right now, right? Like I don't have to. I'm so frustrated, and so that's like really when your higher mind is going to step in and say like, no, you can do it, right? So you have that other little part of you that says like, okay, no, you can do it, right? And then it's like kind of hearing that. So I call that voice of the higher mind. You're like Glinda the Good Witch, right? So occasionally you get those conversations and those moments that you have like a message drop in from Glinda the Good Witch, and it's starting to have a bit more awareness and understanding that truly every single person we are all being guided. And not everyone believes that because maybe you haven't experienced it, but it's learning how to have some awareness of knowing that you're being guided, having some awareness of that, and starting to really just tune in with that voice of like the higher mind and that guidance that you're getting.
Let's get into it a bit then. So guided by who? Would it be that it's whatever philosophy that you adhere to, that's the guidance, or is it a universal dispersal of this guidance? We all know, like I can really equate exactly what you just said in terms of you feel like you're guided, and there's these three levels that you just talked about, which is the conscious, subconscious, and the mediator. But like there is something else beyond that. So is that what you're speaking to, or no?
Yeah, and I that's like super conscious, connection, higher mind, and that conversation is happening from a higher place, right? That information, that guidance is coming from a higher place that's far greater than yourself. Now, it certainly depends on what your belief system is. Ultimately, it is coming from one source, from one place, and depending on what your belief systems are and how you refer to that higher power or that higher, the higher mind is the voice of the higher power, right? So whatever the higher power is to you, whether that's the universe, God, Allah, Buddha, those, ultimately, regardless of what your religious faith is, ultimately it is all coming from the one same source. So when you get into from a spiritual perspective, I teach or speak from a place of divinity, and so divinity is what existed and what supersedes religion. It's kind of what happened, what was present before religion, because there's separation that has happened in this physical world with people. There's a lot of really beautiful teachings and really beautiful aspects that are of the divine in all of the religions. But there's also a lot of aspects of religion that were created by man, for power control that created separation.
Is that because of lost knowledge and we had to fill in the gap and try to do it in a righteous manner based on that philosophy, or was it, or what do you think that might be? Because I don't want to interject my thoughts on whatever that might be, but I know I kind of get what you speak of when you say that part. But where does that come from in terms of is it a fill in the gap type of thing?
I mean, it's a conversation that could, we could spend hours talking about.
We're gonna bounce it.
But I think of it in this perspective. If you're really, really going way back historically, technically religion existed before government, right? So religion was kind of that original form of, someone stepping up and kind of like guiding the masses, so to speak. And again, while there were obviously these messages and beautiful practices that were really in truth, divine and what was the highest truth and the highest possibility for man. Unfortunately, man exists in a human body, right? So if you really want to get deep into it from, in the spiritual universe, like there is only one, right? There is only one source, and there is no duality or separation. In the physical universe, there is duality. And so it was, I don't think that it was necessarily malintent. It's just the physicality of
a yin to a yang.
Sort of that physicality of man, because again, in the physical universe, there's duality, right? So there's this concept that exists in the physical world of duality, of good or bad, of right or wrong, of love and hate. Whereas in the spiritual universe, there are none of those things, right? There is only oneness. There is only one. So all the other things don't exist.
No, I'm not sure if the audio is kind of held back.
You cut out for a moment. I didn't hear you there.
My apologies. I'm glad it didn't do that. I was just saying you're fantastic. To transition just a little bit, facing your true desires and depose fear. What does that mean to you? Why is that one of your number one things that you kind of bandwagon and not bandwagon, but more so cheerlead? I apologize for that if that connotation seemed any kind of way.
Just repeat it for me. I just want to make sure that I understand that I answer the question you actually asked me.
Facing your true desire and deposing fear, meaning what I got from that was standing strong on what you're trying to accomplish and not thinking that you can accomplish it. So as we go back to being an entrepreneur, you open a business, but yet still you have some doubt and fear. Am I going to have customers? Are they going to buy my cupcakes? Are they going to buy the cookies? No, why are you creating those things? So that's kind of what I took from it. What are the roadblocks, right? Fear or true desire? How do you depose fear and master your true desire that you know is what you're creating in your mind, but those lack and doubt and all those other things come into play some way, shape, or form?
Oh, I love this question, and it's such a two-part question.
Yes, it is.
So make sure to have me circle back to the fear, because I don't want to bypass the fear.
All right, I'm making a note now.
Because that is one of the biggest hurdles and roadblocks. But the desire, the desire, the dreams, the goals, and desires are there for a reason. And start with knowing that if it has come to you as a dream, a goal, or desire, that it is meant for you, and that it already exists in the universe, and in part is waiting for you to become who you need to become in order to allow that into your life. So sometimes it's not always about how do I get how do I get it? How do I make this dream goal or desire to come true, right? It's not about necessarily how do I get it, or people get stuck in this place of want, right? Wanting it so badly.
Yeah.
The problem with want is want still comes from a place of lack, and wanting does not equal having.
Okay.
So the question is not how do I, I want this thing, how do I get it? The question is, this is the thing that I desire. This is what I choose to have in my life.
What's the difference, though, Jessa, between want and desire? Is one more, I don't want to say conscious, is one more selfish than the other?
I think the desire really comes from like a deeper place. I think, it's a true desire. A true desire, I think, kind of tends to come from a deeper place.
Okay.
So it's in part, it's getting clear on what it is that you choose to have, right? So moving beyond want or need into a place of allowing and having, right? So it's what is it that I choose to have, right? So this desire, what are these goals, dreams, and desires? What are the things that I choose to have?
Okay.
And now moving beyond the want into a place of allowing and having. So then the question becomes not so much how do I get that thing, but who do I need to become in order to have and allow that into my life?
Okay. So it's more of a conscious choice, more so than something that you created over time.
I think it's much more intentional, right? You want to be intentional. Just because you want something, I think the desire, right, is this stronger version, of a want. But if you stay,
is it a precursor?
Well, but here's the thing: if you stay stuck in just the wanting it again, like wanting is not the same thing as having, right? So, the example I always use, right? So, pretty much everyone, man or woman. I mean, even as a woman, I love cars. So I think everyone has a dream car, right? With what that might be, or a dream house, or a dream partner, whatever it is. But a car is the fastest example, right? So everyone has that dream car. So, the question is would you rather continue wanting your dream car, or would you rather have it?
Okay.
Right? So, I mean, I don't know about you personally. I would rather have my dream car, not just want it.
Well, yes, I have my dream vehicle. I love Fords. I love F-150s, and I do construction work. So it was always something that I had in my mind where I've been on job sites, and I was like, okay, you can put your materials, you can put your tools. So I get that part of the that mental program in, the goings on. But is that I was really trying to get to seeing what was the difference between want and desire, because I think want is keeping up with the Joneses more so than desire is doing the best that you can do.
Well, I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with, having a want or a desire. The thing is you have to.
Is want the next level then?
But I think you have to. For me, it's about clarity. It's about getting clear. And I like to phrase it as what is it that you choose to have, right? So because you're exercising this choice. Because what happens is a lot of times want, right, is superficial, or it's externally influenced, right? And so it's really getting clear about what it is that you choose to have. So kind of stripping down some of that societal expectation, the societal norm, the societal or social norms, the
societal expectations.
Exactly. And just, really stripping down those external influences, whether it's societal or parental or, sometimes there's a lot of, religious influence or restriction, and really allowing yourself to strip it down and get clear clear on what it is that you truly, again, to me, that desire is something deeper. It's like what it is that you truly desire, what it is that you truly choose to have. And a big piece of that is clarity, right? And getting clear on what it is that you truly desire. Because it's so easy to be influenced by society and by our parents as to how we think we're supposed to live and what we think we're supposed to have, right? I mean, for a long time, I was living a life that wasn't even my own. That was my next question,
Jessa. How was you able to detach yourself from those expectations to being the motivator coach that you are now?
Well, I think there was this pivotal place that I think of frustration. I mean, I love my mother dearly, but I'm an only child, and so my mother. The thing is I didn't realize, and you just don't know what you don't know, and I didn't realize it until I was in my mid-30s how much my mother was still controlling my life, how much her thoughts and beliefs were still controlling what I thought and believed, how much her fears and limitations were creating fear and limitation in my own life. And so it's so easy. It's so easy that becomes your normal. These societal influences, the parental influences, it's so easy for that to become someone's normal. And what happened for me is I actually took a job on the opposite side of the country, and there was some discord in the relationship with my mom because the more I flew the nest, so to speak, the more she attempted to grip on.
How old were you at that time?
I was in my mid-30s.
Okay, there was some overbearing things going on.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify because oftentimes we think that because our child is 18, they need to come out the nest. No, if they don't have the strategic abilities of de-escalation, solving the problem resolutions and all these different things, then you may be kind of pushing them out the nest a little too early.
Well, and that's possible, but that's actually like what I'm speaking to. I mean, I left home when I was 18. I mean, I left the house when I was 18 years old, but
did you think you were well equipped though at that time?
I think I was. Now that doesn't mean that everyone was. I mean, but my mother had very much raised me to be very strong and very independent. And she was, and I was working full time and going to college, and she was still helping me a little bit at that time. But there was an interesting kind of evolution that happened, right? So it was an interesting shift that took place with my mother and I, where I feel like when I was younger, she did a good job of kind of gradually giving me more autonomy and more independence and all of those things. So she did a really good job of like establishing that. So I was very self-sufficient. I was very independent, all those things. But what I'm speaking to is that it wasn't until like later in my life, and it was, there were some changes that my mother had gone through. And so there were changes that were showing up in our relationship later in life where it was like she was somehow had like reverted to treating me as though I was like a child or a teenager and I was in my mid-30s.
Why do you think that happened now that you're able to kind of hindsight it?
I believe it was what she was experiencing personally. So when my grandfather passed away, my grandmother ended up moving in with my mom and my stepfather. And I think after several years of my mom's mother living with her, I think my mom kind of started to not feel like she was the boss in her own home. So I think my mom kind of felt like she was being treated as a child again. And so I think that she had lost that control in her own life. So as my mother, she then was like attempting to then, like reverting back to treating me like I was a teenager and like I was a kid and attempting to control my life again. Right. But again, I didn't realize how present that was. And so I ended up taking a job on the other side of the country, and I finally had a different work schedule, and I had some time off to really think. And there was this pivotal moment where I think it was out of like sheer frustration, where I was thinking about the future and, what I wanted in the future. What did I want as far as like a relationship in the future? Because I have a significant other that had passed away. And so I hadn't had a meaningful relationship in a very long time. Okay. Thank you. And I was, I knew that I was supposed to be going in a different direction career-wise, but I didn't know what that was. And so there was a lot of frustration. So I just gave it I started to give it some thought. And I just remember having this moment of saying to myself, getting clear about what it was that I wanted. And the conversation that I had with myself was like, okay, let's think about this, Jessa. Like, what is it that you want your life to look like in the next 5 to 10 years from a personal perspective, from a financial perspective, from a career perspective or business perspective, from a relationship perspective? What is it that you really actually want the next 5 to 10 years of your life to look like? Not what does society think your life should or shouldn't look like at age 35. Not what does your mother think your life should or shouldn't look like at age 35, but what the actual F does Jessa want?
And that was the governing principle in terms of how you began to move forward?
That was one of those pivotal moments where I was seeking, right? I was searching for the answer to what that was. Okay.
So you said one of your things that you talk about is what's the difference between thinking and feeling, as opposed to I guess how you govern yourself?
Well, I mean, we are both thinking and feeling beings, and the way that we are co-creating our reality.
That's one of the conversations that I'd love to have with you on just another episode for like an hour or two. Just the fact that are we co-creating, and what is co-creating, even though we're doing what we think is going on in this one. But that's fantastic that you said it that way, and I appreciate that you did do that. But go back to what you were going to speak to in terms of what is thinking and feeling and how you conduct yourself, I'm guessing.
Well, they're kind of a loop, right? Thoughts and feelings, it's kind of a loop. So there's like if you were to imagine the words thoughts, feelings, and then beliefs listed on a page of paper, right? With thoughts being the first word, feelings being the second word, beliefs being the third word. Your feelings are in the middle, and your feelings are influenced by your thoughts. Your thoughts are influenced by your feelings. So there's this loop, but then there's also this loop between your beliefs and how you feel, and how you feel is also influencing your beliefs. So it's this internal loop system. Mm-hmm. And the way that I can speak to it a little bit is, so thoughts and feelings are both energy, and as an actual being, you are not your thoughts and you are not your feelings.
What is the correlation between those three?
Well, the correlation is that they're all three of those things are interacting, and it's a combination of the quality of your thoughts, the quality of your feelings, and the quality of your beliefs that determine the quality of your actions or lack thereof, right? So if your thoughts, your feelings, beliefs are negative and or unsupportive, then that's going to keep you stuck in a place of inaction. So it's the quality of the thoughts, the quality of the feelings, and the quality of the beliefs, right? So it's the sum of all three of those things. So that's why the importance to really create change and why so many people are still kind of getting stuck when they only do mindset. Yeah, you can improve your thoughts, but like how you feel still matters, and what your belief systems are still matters. So
how do you correlate the three? Is that what you were getting to before I interrupted you?
Well, they're technically in order to improve the quality of your actions and to have the desired outcome, right? So the goal is to improve the quality of all three of those things: the thoughts, the feelings, and the beliefs, right? But again, remembering all of those things are energy. The beautiful thing about your thoughts, your feelings, and your beliefs being energy is that all of those things can be changed, right? Energy can be changed, and but different feelings, especially emotions, have a frequency. Okay. So anger, has a much lower vibrational frequency than joy, right? Right. And so if you think about like attracting and becoming the person who has the things that, your heart and soul truly desires, are you going to get those things from a place of anger? Well, no, right? Like that lower vibrational frequency is keeping you closer to things that you don't want rather than things that you do. Okay. Or that you choose to have, again, because it's moving beyond this wanting. So It's not what is it that I choose to have? And then again, who do I need to become in order to have and allow these things in my life? And if that's the perspective, that's the fastest way to start to get to the desired outcome. Again, is not how do I get this thing that I want, right? But who do I have to become in order to have and allow these things that I choose to have?
That's what I like that you tap into is the deeper level. When we first spoke, one of the things that resonated with me very instantaneously was that you kept saying root cause, root cause, root cause. So I think that's kind of what it is, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because there's and the subconscious stuff, it's deeper. There's these deeper aspects. As beings, we're humans. We're these like beautiful, multi-dimensional beings. And so there's all of these different facets and all of these different layers that really make up the truth of who you are. And peeling back and shedding some of those layers that are not the truth of who you are, and the false programming and the limiting belief that is not the truth of who you are, and getting, some of those things run deep. I mean, depending on, because I do the nature of the work that I do, because I do that deeper inner work with people, people are bearing their heart and soul and these traumatic things that they have experienced.
Do you find
in their life?
I apologize to interrupt you just because I know that you can stay on course, but I may not be able to, or don't own that, and I don't create that. My apologies. Is there a commonality in some of your patients in terms of these, not necessarily traumas, but reasons why they're not fulfilling their goals?
Well, it's unique to each individual person. So what's keeping, what might be keeping me stuck and what's keeping you stuck. So let's say you and I have the same goal, right? But what's keeping me stuck and what's keeping you stuck they might be similar, but ultimately they're different because the experiences leading up to that place are different. You know, the thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs are different. So it's a very unique thing, right? Because every one person's experience has been different.
Okay.
So you know, and I think oftentimes, as far as people working with me or that get pulled or called or guided to work with me, that I think that's really an energy thing. You know, they like my thought process, they like my approach, they like what I have to say, but they're really, really, truly looking for like this. It's to me, it's like it's the highest level of success and the highest expression of self. And that's the thing that I love is like because for me there's always a next level self, a next level wealth, the next level you know, there's just always a next level, and for me it's fun. I absolutely enjoy and love it.
So another thing that I looked when I was looking into your bio and things like that, Jessa, it said blocking your own success and stuck in a loop. Like what is that, and how do we overcome that part? Other than reaching out to you and you giving us some great training.
Well, I mean, there's so many ways, but I feel like one thing to pay attention to is to look at where you're meeting the most resistance, right? So, I mean, just as an example, right? Like if you're an entrepreneur, and resistance to me can be the same thing as avoiding, right? So what is it that you're either avoiding or resisting in your life or in your business? And that's always that's part of, I use avoidance or resistance as part of this internal navigation and this internal compass, and I use that to guide me. So where am I meeting the most resistance, or what am I avoiding? That's an opportunity. that is an opportunity. So I will always say,
to get to the root cause of whoever you're advising is dealing with or speaking to.
Absolutely, because if you're meeting a lot of resistance, or if you're significantly avoiding something, or you're meeting a lot of resistance around something, there's a reason for that. And the cool thing about, you know, moving in the direction of like kind of confronting the resistance and dealing with what needs to be dealt with to move past it and get beyond it. Because what happens is that resistance creates more resistance, right? So if you're avoiding something and you're resistant to something, then that's you're stuck in that place of resistance and avoiding that thing. And what's so beautiful is if you move towards it and say like, okay, well, I'm resisting and avoiding this thing for a reason, and what's on the other side of it is flow. What's on the other side of the resistance is a reward. Yeah. So if you use that resistance to guide you, there's flow and there's reward on the other side of it. And what happens is once you get past the resistance, right, there's that flow, and then, you know, so flow creates more of the same. So then you start to have more flow as you move past the resistance. So, for example, as an entrepreneur, right, like a lot of people like marketing and sales, like a lot of people have being an entrepreneur will stir up all of your stuff. Like all of your ish will get stirred up as an entrepreneur. And that's why it's so beautiful to work, to be able to like, you know, work on these things. So many people like have a resistance or avoid like sales and marketing. I mean, myself included, right? And it's one of these like super common sense things, but I mean, I know I needed to hear it. And when someone said it to me, and it's that like, if you're not embracing and learning marketing and sales, then you don't actually have a business. You have a really expensive hobby.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yeah. Go ahead.
So again, it's like, so, where are you meeting resistance in your life or your business? And if it's sales and marketing and you start to, I'll tell you, like, it changed everything. When I finally like confronted that resistance and started to be like, okay, we've got to get past this resistance because we cannot stay stuck in this resistance. We're literally, like we're gonna go broke here. We're gonna go bankrupt. We cannot stay in this place of resistance because this is a very expensive hobby. And not truly a business yet. So yeah, that was a huge place of growth for me as an entrepreneur. And what's so cool about it is when you start to like embrace that resistance and be like, okay, well, what do I need to do to get to the other side of this resistance? Again, what's on the other side is flow and like all of these like opportunities, like the answers, the solutions started to come as soon as I started to focus some energy on it and embrace that I was having so much resistance there and moving towards the resistance rather than away from it.
No, Jessa, like I said, when I reached out to you, I knew you'd have all of these great guidance and great path to wellness and all of these good things because you're trumpeting a lot of things that I've heard with some of the research that I was doing, where it's consistency, it's mental wellness, it's focus, it's all of those things, and it's letting go. It's all of those things that we don't realize, especially as an entrepreneur, because we're an entrepreneur-centric podcast. We're trying to give you some guidance from people who've done it, doing it, or can show you a path to be consistent, be successful in whatever you're doing. So I knew you were very important to, our hodgepodge of entrepreneurs that we talk to and interview, because what you're sharing is priceless. It's even though you have a business yourself that people can support, and we want you to support that, support Jessa and all these great things. You do it because of your love, passion, and purpose. So that was I love that part. So tell me about Peaceful Millionaire Mastery.
Well, I'm grateful that comes through. So my book is the Peaceful Millionaire: Mind, Money, and Soul Wisdom. And what I have truly built is to be able to teach and really go deeper, because there's only, even though it's a book and it's my book, there's only so much that I can guidance and wisdom that I can fit into the pages of the book. And so what I've created, been guided to create, is the path of a peaceful millionaire. And there's different levels of it. The Peaceful Millionaire Mastery is my high level, is my high level course, but I do have some entry levels of getting in and starting to really embark on that path. And it's so beautiful, because being a peaceful millionaire, becoming a peaceful millionaire, it's so much more than money. And that was where I started out on my success journey, was seeking,
okay, so let me interrupt you, because I want you to continue on. Your dad was a coal miner. So you come from humble backgrounds and seeing hardworking people build themselves to try to be successful, to pass on the gift of hard work to their kids and their kids and their. So you come from that. So when did you make the transition to know that, okay, I am this, I think this, and I know this, and therefore there will be this?
Oh, well, I mean, it was a gradual process and an unfolding. I mean, I've had a fascination with the mind since I was a child, because I had childhood seizures. So I had a fascination with the mind from a very young age. So when I reflect back upon my path, it kind of makes sense that I ended up in neuroscience doing neurosurgery, because I always had this fascination with the mind. But I was also always fascinated by people and like human behavior. So my undergrad degree was actually in behavioral and social science. And there was a lot of things that I learned working in Western medicine for 10 years purely just from observing people. And honestly, a lot of things that I started to understand about the mind and what the mind is truly capable of was things that I witnessed working in medicine that were things that I hadn't been taught. So I come to understand a lot of things about human potential and human behavior just by observing people in the medical field for so long. And so it's really, really beautiful to understand the mind and human potential that I do now, and to give people the access to that, right? Because it's yours, it's already in you, and everyone, every person, every individual on this planet is just an infinite, a being of absolute, like, infinite potential. And it's getting to the place of being able to see that and giving someone, my greatest joy is giving someone access to that which is already themselves. And that's really, that's really, really what it is. And helping you get past, getting someone past, like, the programming, getting someone past, like, the lies, the limitations. Because none of the lies are, none of the limitations are real. So it truly is. The only limitations are the ones that we place upon ourselves. And I placed a lot of limitations on myself in my life, and they still show up, and it's something to grow past, to go through.
So you even still on the level that you're on, still have strategies that you employ every day in terms of your building?
Oh, yeah, because, the next level always requires, like, a next level you, right? The next level of success always requires a next level of yourself. And so it's this beautiful, constant growth and evolution because when you don't want to, like, be free from obstacles, right? You want to see those obstacles.
Speak to that, Jessa. Don't just touch on it. Please speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't want to be free from obstacles. What people perceive as, whether you perceive it as an obstacle or a struggle or, a failure, all of those things are opportunity. Failure is an opportunity. Failure is not in truth anything but an opportunity. It's a temporary setback. It's a temporary thing. So it's seeing an obstacle, a struggle, a failure, seeing all of those things as an opportunity. Again, this is perspective. All of those things are an opportunity for you to learn, grow, and evolve. And what's on the other side of an obstacle and on the other side of the opportunity is a reward. So you don't want to be free of obstacles. What you want to do is learn how to be, as you overcome bigger obstacles, right? You get bigger opportunities, and what's on the other side of that bigger opportunity is a bigger reward. And so that's, so it becomes almost this fun game of, like, okay, well, what is the next big obstacle? Seeming, it's a perceived obstacle. The obstacle itself is not real.
That's fantastic. I love that you worded it that way. It's like, what's the next big obstacle? What's the...
Well, it's a perceived obstacle.
You spoke from such a sense of confidence.
Well, because when you get to that place of perceiving the obstacle differently, you're choosing. So what next big obstacle, or opportunity do I choose for myself? Because I see an obstacle and opportunity as being synonymous. So I was recently presented with an opportunity that I probably in the past certainly in the past would have perceived as an obstacle. I wouldn't have felt ready. I wouldn't have felt all of these things. I was presented with the opportunity to become the New York chair of a global leaders organization for 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs. And I mean, I'm still, like, a little bit in awe of the fact that opportunity showed up for me.
Okay, so let's get into it. So, you keep saying I give you 3-4-part questions, so I'm going to give you 3-4-part questions. Why didn't you take it? Did you take it? Was it for you? Did you think it was too early, or what was your apprehension? That's 5.
Well, I am taking it. I am taking it. The opportunity just presented itself last week, and I actually have a meeting on Thursday this week with the founder. They've sent me the contract, and so it's this beautiful thing. But I would just full transparency. Had this opportunity shown up 3 months ago, 6 months ago, or even a year ago, I certainly. I wouldn't have been ready. When I look back on those
why wasn't you? And what is the discrepancy between you now and you then?
Well, again, it's a perception.
Okay. This is what you're here for.
Well, I know, but that's the thing. So yes, we have to give you an opportunity to answer. So
okay, love you.
But I mean. And I don't know that it's the same for everyone else, but becoming an entrepreneur required so much growth and expansion of myself. So I have changed so much so quickly as an entrepreneur, and sometimes it's just gaining that footing and gaining that confidence. And all of those things happen little by little. But I would say the biggest thing that made the most difference in those early stages on my entrepreneurial journey that had to happen was a deepening of my faith. I would not be who I am or where I am if it wasn't for like really, really deepening my faith, not only in something greater than myself, but that in turn ended up coming back on myself. So there's a lot of people out there who use that saying, right? Like fake it till you make it. And I don't use that, and I don't believe in that.
I don't like that phrase.
So I offer you something better. I offer you something new if it resonates for you, and that is to faith it, right? You faith it until you make it.
No, because here's one of the things. Even if you're not a subscriber of Christianity, they say faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things known. I may have, mixed those two up, but it's basically saying you're hoping and creating things that you already know exist, or you can make exist while battling the doubt.
So faith is the energy that clears the channel. And so when I use the word faith, I'm not using the word faith in a religious context, right?
Exactly.
So it's faith, right? Having faith is having a belief in something like, greater than yourself, right? So
is it a direct applicable belief or just a blanket belief? Because what I mean when I say that is, okay, I've been driving this car and it's just a bucket. Well, I just know I'm going to get this. So it's like, is it direct or is it a blanket? Lord, I know you're most high universe. I know you're going to provide for me, and I'm going to be able to select whatever car I choose to. So if you get the little nuance with that, sorry about that. No, I'm actually not sorry. I want you to get the nuances and guide us.
Well, so the thing about faith is, and bringing something into physical form, right? Is the faith is not in the material thing.
Right.
What shows up, right? Like what shows up as a car it has nothing to do with having faith that you're going to get the car, right?
Right.
It really that's just the
byproduct.
Yeah, it's a byproduct, exactly. It's an external expression. So I think that in part, it could circle back to when you say like your inner world is creating your outer world. And to me, one of those pieces of that inner world is faith. I mean,
okay.
Because I mean, ultimately,
is there a duality with that though?
I personally don't believe there's duality with faith.
Is duality situational or no?
Well, duality is something that exists in this reality. That the question is how much you
believe in it. You believe, subscribe to it.
Exactly. How much you subscribe to it, because my personal belief, right, is that we are that I am and that everyone is a spiritual being having a human experience, right? So as a spiritual,
do you want to get into that or the next one?
Well, we can get into it next time.
No, I asked you that because I don't know how much time you have, and I'm going to pick your brain.
Well, you might end up even turning this episode into 2 calls, but no, we can do another one, and we can dive more into because all of those things tie together, really.
That's what I think so too, Jessa.
The co-creation. But I do want to circle back, and maybe we'll wrap up on this note, because otherwise I feel like we could go forever. But, in one of the questions that you asked me before, I said I did want to, circle back to fear, right? Because fear is one of those things
Yes, you did. I circled it too.
Is one of those biggest things, that keeps people stuck. And
was that, where did that come from? If we, like you said, it was just one. So at what point is it the yin and yang creation process, or what was the poof of self-doubt and fear?
It's a result of like the programming and how society has evolved. Because here's the thing, right? So fear, I love this, because I received. This was like direct divine guidance that I received. It came through when I was writing my book. So society, right?
What's the name of your book again?
The Peaceful Millionaire.
Fantastic.
There's a huge. I get deep into fear in there. And
I looked into it, so that's why I asked you that.
Yeah. So the thing is so fear does not come from the known. Like, take a moment. Like, fear does not come from the known. So you don't fear things that are known to you, right? So once you've done something once and you know that you can do it, right, the fear is no longer there. So fear doesn't come from the known. Fear comes from the unknown. And so what's happened is that culturally and societally, people have been taught to fear the unknown and to fear uncertainty. And I teach from a place of getting to the place of being able to actually embrace uncertainty, right? And embrace the unknown, because it's when we get beyond that where there's so much more room for something greater. So when you understand that, when you know that you are being guided, you know that you're safe, you know that you're protected, you're being divinely guided, you're divinely safe, you're divinely protected. When you're in that space, right? The like faith and fear can't actually exist simultaneously. So when you're in your faith and you're knowing that you're being guided, that you are protected, and that you don't have to fear uncertainty, you don't have to fear the unknown. When you can embrace that, that's when all of these things that are these unexpected and really beautiful things have an opportunity to show up. Because the fear keeps people stuck. Like fear can keep someone frozen, and it kept me frozen for a long time. And the weird thing is, I wasn't really here's what I learned about fear, about myself. I was never someone, this is me personally, I was never someone who feared.
One of the things that I'm appreciative of is that you're willing to speak on the things that was holding you from being the best you.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I learned about myself on this journey. I was not someone who feared external things. So I was, from an external perspective, I had no fear. Put me on a motorbike, let me jump out of an airplane, kill a spider, like all these things. Like I was not someone who had like external fears. What I learned about my journey was, I feared all the inner stuff and all of the deeper stuff. And for a very long time, I was incapable of being vulnerable. And so I was very shut off from an emotional perspective. So to be this person that I am now, to speak the way that we're speaking and to get in these beautiful, deep conversations is not something I would have been able to do even a few years ago in 2019. So in 2019, I was absolutely terrified. I was absolutely terrified to have a vulnerable conversation with a man. And all I wanted to do was tell him how highly I thought of him and that our time together had meant something to me and that he had made a positive difference in my life. And that was something that literally felt impossible to me. And I was so terrified because for me, vulnerability was not something that I just used to.
What was the moment that led up to that?
Well, I knew that I struggled with vulnerability, and that was one of those big things that I avoided for a long time. And really, what happened was I was actually it was December of 2018. I went to an energy healer, and it was the first time I had ever been to an energy healer in my life. And I mean, this woman didn't know me from Adam, and I just remember her saying to me, she was like, "You're seeking a deeper, like meaningful romantic partnership," and it took me a moment to process that because in my head I'm already thinking, how in the heck did she know that? And she was spot on, and I said, yeah, and she said, you do know in order for you to have that, you're going to have to be vulnerable with him.
And then, did you know what she meant by that when she said it, or?
I did personally, or at least what it meant to me, right? Like I had an understanding of what that meant to me.
Right.
And when she said that to me, I took a moment to process it. And when she said that to me, my response was, well, then maybe I don't want it that bad because that's not possible.
Was it the levels of what that meant, or it wasn't that, you didn't care that much about it?
I truly believe that was, it was in part my conditioning. Like, so to share or show emotion, that was not something that I was.
It wasn't acceptable.
Well, that was not something I was capable of, right? So I was kind of raised.
Okay.
I was raised like to be very strong, very independent. Never let them see you down. Never let them see you cry.
And then when you look back as someone who's giving guidance, right? What do you now give parents the guidance to do in that situation? Because you want your son or daughter to be strong. You want them to be self-sufficient. You want them to be all of these great things, right? But yet still you want to listen to, you know what, your teacher might have been wrong when they called me and told me this about you.
Well, I mean, the best way to improve, right, how you're showing up as a parent is to improve how you show up for yourself, right? Because if you're showing up for yourself in a higher and better way, you're automatically going to show up for your child in a higher and better way. And some of it is, some of that is, there's an evolution of emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. Again, so many, that most people live just purely, completely in this physical world, right? And completely are in this physical realm of the duality of it's good or bad, it's right or wrong. And there's not a whole lot of in between. And so what I truly believe is that when you have a deeper, more meaningful understanding of yourself and a deeper, more meaningful relationship with yourself, then you can start to have these deeper, more meaningful relationships and connections with other people, including your children. And understanding, if you understand yourself and how things really impacted and imprinted your heart and your soul and your mind and your body and your life, then it's this constant process of how do I do better? right? In order to do better, I believe we must become better, right? So how do I do better? I must become better. And so you're becoming a higher and better version of yourself, ultimately for you, but the result of that is you're a higher and better version of yourself for every single person in your life and every single person that you impact, that you interact with from that point forward. I mean, I was a very different person. I mean, I to be quite frank, like if I were to meet myself 5 years ago, I wouldn't have even liked myself.
Yeah, I tell people that a lot of times when we talk that if you were able to hear some of the things your friend said, you might not be your friend's friend. So I love when you say that, because you're just speaking to evolution, growth, and the fact that we were processing thoughts, emotions, and feelings when we thought those thoughts, emotions, and feelings. So I like that part of the program. I have one of the last questions I have for you. I don't want to hold you. Is you said when we found success and safety in the walls we build around our hearts. What does that mean?
I'm not quite. I kind of know where that came from.
Do we find success and safety in the back? And here's why I asked you two parts. I'm gonna stay with 2-3 parts in your question. The initial part with me is I sometimes have a stiff face on because I'm trying to defend myself from what I think or project you're coming up to me with. So I may want to smile, but in order to protect myself from whatever you're approaching me with, I'm letting you know, think about it, and then let's interact. That's a complicated conversation just by the eyes. And you can take it from there.
Well, I mean, what I hear you say is, is that there's a guard up, right? And so
yes, and that's what I thought I heard from you with the quote. And if you didn't say it, I was looking at your bio, so I may have, but that's where I got that part of the program from.
Well, I'm not sure exactly where you read that. So what I had said previously is that the walls around my heart would have put Fort Knox to shame. But what I learned is that the walls, well, just based on how closed off I was. I mean, I was very, 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 very closed off. Listen, we've all been through some ish, right? Like we've all been through some ish. And so you so those walls get put up to protect
for the
ourselves.
Next person.
Right. So the walls get put up to protect ourselves. And so oftentimes, and what happened for me is it was, like little by little, like over the course of, my life. And because I believe that, unfortunately, most of us were not taught. I was not taught, healthy coping mechanisms when it came to like emotions and feelings, right? Like, so I was the person who always stuffed it down, right? Like pretended that I didn't care, pretended that I didn't feel anything and stuffed it down. And what happens is that it doesn't matter how far you stuff it down, those stored emotions are they don't go away. Like no matter how much you stuff all of that,
because you're eating spiritual food, so it has to digest, process, and
yeah. So the unprocessed emotion, it doesn't go away. It gets stored in your body, it gets stored in your cells, and so when you see, like an external expression, right? You see someone who's very short-tempered, who kind of flies off the handle. It's being able to like kind of meet that with compassion and know that that's coming from a place of pain within, right? And from all of these things that this person has like stuffed down, and that they're not able to process, and so they're just running on this short fuse. I mean, I used to have a short fuse, and and so unfortunately, that's the place, where there's room for growth is oftentimes, when you don't have those outlets and you're continuing to stuff down this emotion, what happens is you become very reactive, right? It's all this unprocessed, emotion that's gotten stored. And so it tends to make you be very reactive to something rather than being able to respond to something. And there is a difference.
No, I think there's a big difference. That's why I was alluding earlier to when, we tend to think our kids are 18. Oh, it's time to get out the house, this, that, and the third. No, they have no problem solving, conflict resolution. They don't have all of these. They can't bank. They can't save. They don't know none of these tools or tactics, and you're putting them out the house or even thinking that in some form of way because of the age number. No, you should implement that based on your level of parenting for them to be able to survive because you're putting them out to the world that we have to now interact with.
Well, and it has to, and there has to start to be an understanding that the traditional education system is not preparing the children of today, nor did it prepare the adults of today as to truly how to excel in life, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, or financially, right? Like the traditional education system doesn't teach any of those things, unfortunately. And so, so those are things that have to be cultivated, outside of the school system. And it's challenging, right? Because, people are working jobs, they're doing their best to, make ends meet and raise a family and cook dinner and, take the kids to ball practice and all of those things. So it's like, where is the time and the space? Again, so many of those things have to be taught by the parents. Yeah, and so the only way that you can, teach them and show up for them in a higher and better way is to get out there and learn yourself and to start to show up for yourself in a higher, better way. And then you just get that natural, trickle and ripple down effect, from doing that. So that's.
No, I think you did a great job of saying that part, Jenna. Jessa, I don't want to hold you too much. Please explain to me, how can you speak to the path to wellness?
Wellness to me, wellness to me means well-being. And so I think true wellness is mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual wellness. Because you as a being, I mentioned earlier, you're a multidimensional being, right? So you're a mind, a body, a heart, and a soul. You're a combination of all those things. You're not just a mind. You're not just a body. So all of those aspects of you as an individual matter. And so, what you're thinking matters, how you feel matters, how you feel in your day-to-day life, how you feel on your path to success or wealth or, really succeeding as an entrepreneur, whatever those, dreams, goals, and desires are, how you feel on that journey matters. And for me, it is my greatest wish to give people access to really feeling exquisite on that journey, because I get into in the Peaceful Millionaire, because I teach some like a money management system, like an actual money management system, but it's getting past like those limiting thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that would prevent you from using that, and one of those ways to really start to have complete like wellness and complete well-being is understanding that in addition to these like specific financial accounts, is that you have a mental, a physical, a spiritual, and emotional bank account as well, and that you have to.
If you can, please elaborate on that, please.
Well, I mean, because so here's the right, because so money and success don't bring happiness or joy or fulfillment, right? So happiness, joy, and fulfillment are an inside job, and so you can have there are plenty of people out there who are multimillionaires, billionaires, who are completely emotionally, spiritually, and or possibly even mentally, physically bankrupt, right? So they might have billions or millions of dollars in the bank, but they're miserable, right? They're absolutely miserable because
what is that discrepancy? I know it's the levels to that question, so just speak to it from what you think it is.
Well, to me, that discrepancy is, just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you have the consciousness for it. So there's a wealth consciousness, and again, true wealth, right? True wealth. To me, when I speak about wealth, being rich, being abundant, all of these things, all of those things, it's like you don't ever want to focus one of those words on it only being financial, right? So wealth is having plenty of love, plenty of health, plenty of financial success. So it's having plenty of all things. So if you're void, if you're void of emotional connection and meaningful relationships, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you're going to be miserable. And so,
doesn't it equate the other way too as well?
Yeah, it can go either direction, of course. Yeah, it can go either direction. Okay. Because sometimes, well, and because here's what happens, right? Like, oftentimes people are so strapped on this path of societal driven, the societal driven perception of success
instead of mental creation.
And keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak, right? That societal driven perception of success. And the societal driven perception of success is to seek the money and to seek the material things, right? But ultimately, like, yeah, sure, those things are nice to have, but it doesn't, if you're mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally bankrupt, those things really don't matter. So what happens is oftentimes you're
seeking the visuals.
Well, what happens is it's attempting to, so there's this internal void, right? There's this internal void that someone is attempting to fill with material things, with money and material things. And all of the money and material things in the world cannot fill that internal void.
Does that go back to the root cause that you were speaking on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So yeah, those things are nice to have, but yeah, no amount of money or material things in the world are going to fill that void. Fill that void within, because I mean, at the deepest level, I truly believe at the deepest essence of our being is the desire to love and be loved. And I denied myself of that for so much of my life. And so to sit here and talk to you and be this being of love and light that I've evolved into, it is truly a miracle, an act of God, an act of the universe, an act of creation. And I didn't get here on my own. I didn't get here on my own.
Who drove?
Something far greater than me. I just listened.
That's one of the things when I talk to people, I said, just don't be disobedient. We've been so disobedient in our whole life and trying to do what we want to do, adhere to this, that, and the third. But there's something deeper guarding us and guiding us. So don't be disobedient. So I'm thinking that's who drove you to where you just said you didn't know from.
Yeah. Well, and however you want to phrase it. I mean, I think that deepest aspect of yourself, right, is far greater than what most people are consciously aware of. So there's, I think
what's
there's
your guidance? What's your guidance before we go too far into the program? What is your guidance for the new entrepreneurs in terms of keeping themselves focused, guidance driven, and not get away from self-sabotage? You created this business, you're going to build it, it's going to grow. What is your guidance? What are your trying to steps and strategies?
Well, I'll give you three pearls and three nuggets of wisdom around that.
So you're going to give us 6.
I mean, one is you absolutely, have to surround yourself with some like-minded people, because if you're constantly surrounded by people who are putting you down, who don't believe in you, it's really challenging to believe in yourself when no one else around you can really like see the vision or understands the vision and the path. So getting into circles. Whether that's a mastermind. Well, it could be a group coaching. It could be a mastermind. Because there's so many communities to, like the Global Leaders Organization. There's so many communities that entrepreneurs can be part of. So really surrounding yourself by people who are on a similar journey, who are on a similar path, is going to be one of those most important things because you need a support system. I mean, I was someone who always attempted to like do everything myself for like most of my life. I really did. I shut people out. I thought I had to like achieve all of these things and all of this success. I thought I had to do it all alone. And the reality of it is like all of these people who have achieved massive success, they didn't do it alone. So if you're someone who's shutting out if you feel like you have to do it all alone, you don't and you can't. Or you might, but it's going to take a lot longer. That's going to be a hell of a lot harder path than you want it to be.
Because there's some tried and true.
So that's number one. So surround yourself with people who are on a similar path, who are on a similar journey, other entrepreneurs with similar visions, similar goals, similar dreams. That's like tip number one. Number two is where you are now is closer than you've ever been. Where you are now is closer than you've ever been. So don't ever, you're always 3 feet from gold. And where you are now is closer than you've ever been. So you must keep going. You just must keep going. Where you are now is closer than you've ever been. Keep going. You're always 3 feet from gold. And the other one is, you're also always one connection away from changing your life.
Jessa, that was fantastic. And I love the fact that one of the things you say, you deserve the support bespoke. Like, I love bespoke life because that's so organic. And the fact that the Peaceful Millionaire mastery is showing guidance in terms of mental creation, build, and continue.
Yeah. Well, I'm all about a logic-defying life and business by design, and it's co-creation is so fun. Self-mastery, wealth mastery. Just creating this logic-defying life by design that you get to fall more in love with, every day. And I know that if anybody's listening and you hear that and you think like, who the heck is this woman? And what is she talking about?
No, it's what I say is this is for who it's for right now.
Well, and the way I teach is if that feels, if that feels so like far-fetched or in outer space,
No,
right?
it's for who it's for, Jessa.
Well,
right,
no, but here's
right
the thing.
now.
No, I understand that, but what I'm offering a pearl of wisdom here,
Go ahead.
and right, so if something doesn't feel, real or true or possible for you right now, just hold on to it, right? Like, don't completely disregard, right? So what you're saying is like, no, it's meant for who it's meant for. Well, what I'm saying
I meant instantaneously, kind of.
But what I'm saying is like, someone might hear me say that and think like, oh, that's not possible for me, right?
Oh, okay.
And I used to be that person, right? There were a lot of things that I would believe was possible for someone else, but I didn't believe was possible for myself. Okay. So what I'm saying is, if you hear me say that, and you're the person that hears it and says, oh, well, I like that she says that. That sounds cool, but that doesn't feel possible for me. That doesn't feel real or true for me. What I ask is that you hold on to it as a possibility for now. Hold on to it as an opportunity for now. Hold on to it as a possibility. And eventually, you'll, now that you have that expansion and you bring something into your awareness, gradually, if you choose that path, then you'll be guided to how to get, you'll be guided as to how to get there.
And that's fantastic. That goes to some plant the seed, some water the seed, but the God gets the glory. I think that's kind of been the whole overview of what you said to us this whole time, Jessa.
Well, it's it's a beautiful. It's a beautiful journey. There's an Einstein quote, right? There's and I'm paraphrasing, but there's basically two ways to view life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other way to view life is as though everything is a miracle. And the beauty of it is you get to choose.
Now, word is so strange. I heard that yesterday, but some plant the seed, some water, and God got the glory. Jessa, I'm so thankful for you. He would allow us this time.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. I'm grateful that you had me in this opportunity. It's been a beautiful conversation. Thank you for allowing me to share my story and my wisdom and shine my light. It's truly the path and the work that I was called to do, and I'm grateful for the work that I did to be able to show up in this way, because what you're hearing from me is a testament of the work that I did to get to where I am, to become who I needed to become, to be able to speak to you and share this wisdom and this guidance and this light. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
No, we appreciate the fact that you allowed the time for you to do that. Thank you so much, Jessa. I appreciate you letting us ramble with you.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. I loved it.
Our pleasure. And we're going to keep up, and we're going to do some more rambles, because you give such good guidance in terms of just being a natural being in terms of what we're doing here. We have no full understanding or consensus of what this is. So our ramble is just trying to give entrepreneurs some guidance on how to go from A to Z and beyond Z and build yourself. But we don't really have no full consensus of what this is. That's the thing I like to embark with other entrepreneurs, builders, and just gain guidance from. So I'm really appreciative about that part, Jessa.
Well, it's a beautiful journey as an entrepreneur, and the last thing that I will leave your audience with is, everything is a learnable skill. So any aspect of yourself, of your life, of your business that you want to shift and change, everything is malleable, everything is changeable, and everything is learnable. So you just have to choose and just say like, hey, like, I can learn how to do this. I can get better at this. I can, create this change that I want to see.
And that's what's so fantastic about talking with you, Jessa, is because your level of positivity seems so basic, because when you're talking to someone that understands that, that's how it's supposed to be, it seems natural. And that's what we're just trying to give everyone else. It's like, we're just trying to give you some guidance. Well, please don't sue me if you took any of my guidance the wrong way. But we're just trying to guide you in the best way possible, because we understand that that's what we're supposed to do.
Well, and here's the thing, right? So nothing that I've said or nothing that you've said is for anyone who's listening. Nothing that I've said is real and true unless it's real and true for you. And just you have the power to choose, and to never underestimate that power of choice, for yourself.
And that's why I reached out to you, because I wanted that to be the overarching. I hope that was a word, but I wanted that to be the overarching sediment of our conversation, because I know you possess that guidance to give to all of our entrepreneurs, the network, and everyone else, because we're just trying to all better each other to build. Take what you can get from what we're giving you, apply it, don't apply it. Okay, it wasn't tried and true for you, but it would be tried and true for someone else. And you did that so above and beyond.
Thanks for listening to today's Ramble. Please like, share, and subscribe for new episodes of the iRamble podcast. Also, check out iRamble.com for more guest content.